Hey everybody, welcome to the Face-to-Face Ministries podcast, the #1 resource for learning what it means to have a healed heart, connect more deeply with Jesus, and experience true and lasting transformation in your life. I'm one of your hosts, Kathy Little.
And I'm your other host, Melinda Wilson. Please hit subscribe so you don't miss the fresh content we're continuing to release. And while you're at it, we greatly appreciate your help in getting the word out by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a quick review. You can also keep up with us by following our social media by searching face-to-faceministries.org on Facebook. That's no spaces, no numbers, and no caps. And on Instagram at face-to-face-min, and that's all one word.
We want to invite you to join us in our free Face-to-Face Heart Healing Network and in our premium network. Be part of a growing community of people just like you who are wanting to dive deeper into what it means to access the full benefits package of the cross and learning how to help others do the same.
Our team also offers one-on-one ministry sessions that can be done virtually, and you can also learn how to help others connect with Jesus and find healing in their lives through training we offer in the ministry model we use. And for more information about all of the resources, trainings, and events that we offer, visit face-to-faceministries.org. And while you're there, please sign up for our newsletter.
All right, so let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome to episode 88.
Yeah, we're trucking right along in 2021. Boy, it's been exciting already, hasn't it? Wow, it's going to be a great year.
It is. But the funny thing is, the first thing I thought about was, what were you doing in 1988?
Oh, man.
Wow, high school?
I was in college, actually. I am older than you by a little bit.
That's Kathy saying she's older than Melinda, just so you know.
Thanks for rubbing that in. I really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime.
Yes. Hey, we've got something fun coming up. We are actually hitting the road and traveling a little bit. We are headed to Amarillo, Texas, specifically Canyon, Texas, which is just outside of Amarillo, for an expanded edition of the Emmanuel training.
Yep, 2 power-packed days. Listen, we all know that last year was a tough year on so many levels.
Well, and this year already, too.
Well, but let's start out with, hey, who needs transformation in any area of their life? And when we do connect with Jesus, we are transformed. True connection changes everything.
Yeah.
And the Emmanuel approach, I know we've talked about it many times, but if you're listening for the first time really quick, it's really an approach to life and healing using proven brain science. It was started by Dr. Carl Lehman. We've been doing trainings in several places in the country. We're excited to bring it to Amarillo, Texas.
Yeah, we're doing this actually in partnership with some friends of ours at another ministry called the Undivided Heart. They actually have this really nice venue they call it the Retreat at Canyon Ridge. And that is something that they are developing as a healing center. And God just connected us a year ago. We did a training for them in Dallas, and really excited about what God has for us. We kind of feel like we're the next generation coming up because they're younger like we are. Of course, they're younger than us.
Well, I was going to say, one
of them is. One of them is younger.
But we would love to have you join us, whether
Please.
you are a newbie to inner healing or you've been in there a long time. There is something for you, and that is called transformation. And being equipped to help transform others. And there's a lot of hands-on experiential learning. It's not sitting in a lecture for 2 full days. I just don't teach like that. This is a showing. It's a hands-on. We share. We do this together.
Learn and do.
So you will go away having received some healing yourself, but also practiced. And again, this is for anyone, a lay counselor, a professional counselor, a minister, a person, a human being.
Yes.
Someone who wants to grow closer to Jesus. Join us January 22nd and 23rd.
And we're going to beta test something that I think because of technology, everybody's used to Zoom, right? I mean, we've all had to go online. We've been forced there. But we are going to do the training via live stream, and we're going to utilize the breakout room capacity in Zoom to help you with the practice triads. We break you up into groups of 3, and you're going to have an opportunity to do that even virtually. So if you want to sign up for live stream, maybe it's too expensive to get to Texas. Maybe you're not comfortable traveling to Texas. Maybe you want a less expensive option. It is cheaper, a little bit cheaper to do that via live stream. please sign up, and you can do that on our website and click on the training tab. So face2faceministries.org/training. And you'll actually see we've got some other trainings coming up, Medford, Oregon, and a practicum in Sisters, Oregon. But the Canyon Ridge training is what you want to do if you want to try and attend it virtually. I mean, we're excited about that option. Got a great setup with cameras, and Melinda actually has gotten some advice from Carl Lehman himself on doing this virtually with how the brain works and all of that. So
should be good.
By all means,
we'd
y'all
love to have you join us.
We would love to have you join us.
Yeah, step into transformation and the capability and skill to help others step into transformation.
Absolutely. And so today we're actually going to go into part 2 of our conversation with Bethan Hicks. We started part 1 last week. We ended up with 2 really unique topics in that one conversation we had with her. And so we decided to break it up into 2 episodes just so you could chew on one thing at a time. And this week we're actually talking to her about her new book, actually been out a little bit now, called Own Your Assignment. And it's diving into what it looks like to be a mother in the kingdom of God, but it's not what you typically think of as a mother. It's a really good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, neither Kathy or I are mothers in the natural, but we certainly are mothers in the spiritual. And we talked about that and learning what that looks like. And it was, I mean, Bethany is just a treasure trove.
Oh, she's
she
so
really
awesome,
is.
you guys.
She has so much
she
depth
is so
and
amazing.
wisdom. And so just enjoy this part 2 with Bethany. So earlier when we started, we talked about your book. Of course, we talked about your favorite role, mothering and of course in the natural, but let's talk about what it looks like to mother in other ways and talk about your book, Own Your Assignment, Bethany, and just give us a rundown. I've actually been reading your Amazon reviews, and it's like 5-star, like just beautiful, blazingly amazing reviews of people having breakthrough and revelation. So share with us about your book.
Yeah, well, interestingly, talking about prophecy, I would receive these prophetic words over the years, and they'd be like, "You're a pioneer, you're a forerunner, you're a blazing trail," and I'd be like, "Yes, yes, that's so me." And then I would hear these words, "And you'll be known as a mother, or you'll be like a spiritual mother," and I would like cringe inside, you guys, like not because not because I didn't love my own children and not because I don't love being a mother to my children, but I knew in the context it was talking about really being a spiritual mother. And I actually thought they got it wrong. And it's not because I even had a negative experience with my own mother. Like I have a great mother, but I just would cringe inside. It was not something that I wanted to embrace. And I think it was because in my mind, I had this idea in the church, particularly, that a spiritual mother is a bit like a wallflower, second class citizen. Really, we don't know what to call you anymore, so we're just going to call you a spiritual mother, and or like you hit a certain age in the church, and we're going to call you a spiritual mother. And honestly, it seemed to me like the men and the younger generation got to do more of the fun stuff. And so the spiritual mother now has to sit back while everyone else gets to do all the fun, amazing stuff. Like,
what a drag.
I don't know if that's how you guys connected with that. That's how I connected with it.
Yeah.
And I realize not every culture completely understands that, but we all have our own preconceived ideas about what mothering and spiritual mothering is. But I was asked to speak 2 years ago at our home church, The Mission, on Mother's Day. And so I'm processing like what this message is going to be about. And so I started to think about these words that I received. And it really started a conversation with the Lord. Like, okay, God, either you're completely either everyone else was wrong over these words because of my conception about what a mother, because I'm getting all these power words like being a pioneer and a forerunner. And my idea of a mother and like this weak second class citizen, it didn't converge. It didn't make sense. Like that is not me. So I'm like, either my understanding about, I'm like, either you're totally wrong God, or my understanding about what a mother is wrong. And so the Lord took me on a journey through the scriptures to really understand and want to know what is the assignment of a mother that is uniquely and distinctly different than what a father carries. To I feel like there has been a lot focused on fathering, kingdom fathering, spiritual fathering in the last decade or so. There's been books, there's been a lot of talk about it, there's been conferences. I mean, we would name all these amazing men of God like these are spiritual fathers. But I wanted to know why they were a spiritual father and where are the spiritual mothers? I remember like in my own life, I had two spiritual fathers in addition to my own parents that were very impacting, very instrumental in my own walk. But I remember looking for a spiritual mother at a season of my life and I couldn't find any. Like there was one lady in particular that I pursued for a little bit, but I think just my own understanding or even the lack of definition, I just think women particularly didn't know how to step into it. And so on this journey, I shared this message at the church. I felt like the Lord started to give me some revelation on it. I shared these kind of three or four key points to the assignment of a mother, and then ended up sharing it again at a Q&A session at School of the Prophets in Bethel. I was part of a Q&A panel with Chris Valentin and Dan McCollum and then Ben Armstrong. I got to be the token female. Kind of a joke. So, I mean, all these men celebrate women for sure. But one of the questions they asked me was, what's it like being a woman prophet in a man's world? And so I shared a couple points from this mothering assignment and the place just blew up. I mean, it was crazy. And Chris Valentin, in a good way. And Chris Valentin just stood up and he's like, you're going to write the book that's going to redefine motherhood in the kingdom. And I'm going to write the forward. I'll get Bill Johnson to write an endorsement. Like it was a crazy moment. So crazy. But in that moment, like a mandate landed on me, a mantle landed on me that I knew I had to walk out. And so I ended up writing the book. It took me 9 months to the day. So funny. From the time that Chris gave me the word to the day I got my first book, I'm not kidding you guys, it was 9 months
man.
to the day, which was totally God's
so cool.
And so this book came out, and the reality is that I believe in this billion soul harvest that now is and is coming, right? We've all heard it. Bob Jones prophesied about that. We're starting to see this harvest. And what's going to happen and what is happening is you're seeing this influx of all these orphans, coming into the kingdom of God, these people coming into the kingdom that are shifting from an orphan mindset of the world, now realizing that they're sons and daughters of the King of Kings, but they don't know how to live as sons and daughters automatically. They need both fathers and mothers to show them how to live as sons and daughters. And so this is a really important strategic time for women, particularly, to rise up and start owning this assignment as a kingdom mother. And it's not about biological children only. This is really a universal assignment for all women, no matter your age, no matter your like if you have biological children or not, if you've been married or not, it doesn't matter because every single woman can own this assignment because we're all called to be a kingdom mother to someone, to a group, to a continent, to even a nation. I mean, some women are called to mother nations. And so I believe this is the time. It's a leadership call. It really is a leadership call in the family of God. And so that is kind of a little bit of my journey into understanding this role of owning your assignment as a kingdom mother.
Well, Bethany, I'm kind of on the edge of my seat because you kind of started teasing us with this, what erupted the house and they all went crazy. So give us a couple of those nuggets that you shared.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the first one is that I believe the assignment of both mothers and fathers is to raise up world changers. And that's not just a buzzword that we say, world changers, because in Psalms, it talks about that the children of the righteous will be mighty in the land. that they will be mighty in their generation. They'll be champions of their generation, which is world changers. That's what a world changer is. So if the assignment is to raise up world changers, how do we do that? And I believe the first key, particularly as mothers, is that the best way to raise a world changer is to be one yourself.
Come on.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like that principle from
Yeah.
Genesis that like produces like. When God wanted apple trees in the world, he created an apple tree that would reproduce after its own kind. And it's the same with animals. And so there is a principle in the natural that we can see in the spirit as well, that if you want to raise up world changers, the best way to do that is to be one yourself. And there's different reasons for that. But the reality is, when we're walking as kingdom mothers in the fullness of the unique call that we're created to be, it gives not only, it releases permission for those that we're called to raise up to be who God's called them to be.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so at the very core of being a world changer is being who God says you are. I mean, really, that's the bottom line. Walking in the fullness of who God says you are. And so, if us as kingdom mothers are not walking in the fullness of who God says we are, how are we going to train and model for others to be who God says they are? Right? And I think part of this as a whole, for women in particular, is that we feel like for other people that we're serving to be powerful, that we actually have to be suppressed. It's
Mm.
kind of like an innate womanly thing, I think, is that, oh, for you to be powerful, I must be less than, more of you, less of me, you know? And it's like this idea that thinks it's a false idea. It's a false mindset that says that, that sacrifice is the same thing as self-suppression. There is a difference between the two. You know, it's like a lot of times we're going to call sacrifice what's really self-suppression. And it's damaging women's identities particularly, but even in the context of family, it's influencing how women are seeing themselves, and it's honestly quenching the mother's voice. And
Yeah.
so I really believe that you get to be powerful and I get to be powerful too. Like, it's not an either or, it's a both and,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
so if my ceiling is your floor, how much more acceleration will you have if I'm increasing my ceiling, you know?
Come on. Yeah.
So if I'm running hard to be all who God's created me to be, and then I'm using my strength and energy on all the things not only God has called me to be, but you're a part of that. If I'm called to speak into your life and mother you, or lend my strength to you, or use my influence to help accelerate your destiny, I can't accelerate your destiny if I have no influence.
Yeah. Come on.
You know, and so it's
Come on.
really important as a kingdom mother that we fully embrace who God has called us to be. We don't have to choose. Like, obviously there's seasons where you focus on different aspects, right? I'm not saying that there's not times where maybe you do sacrifice something for this, but there's a grace to it, there's a joy to it. Usually there's a time limit too. But it doesn't mean you completely stop running in the things that God has called you to. And so I believe, again, it is that principle of the best way to raise a world changer is to be one yourself. My children right now, they're looking at me. If people ask them, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? They're like, we want to travel the world like our mom. Like, we want to
Come
change the world like our mom. Like, they're
on.
watching me and they're realizing what kind of permission levels they have,
Yeah.
and it's
So
inspiring
good.
for them. And so I feel like that's a huge key to mothering, honestly, that
Yeah.
to be restored.
I think that principle is the same even with what we're doing, raising up heart healers. It's like you can learn how to be a heart healer, but in that process, you need a healed heart to begin with. And as you learn to help others, you're getting healed up yourself. But there's something in that where if you're going to be influencing and impacting the world around you as a heart healer, you need to do your own work and get healed
Absolutely.
yourself because you can't lead where you haven't been.
Right.
you can't. And so that principle is pretty universal, I would think, in the kingdom of God, that
Absolutely.
the more you give away, the more you receive. You have to have something to give, and something. I love that, if my floor is your ceiling, how much better my floor if your ceiling is pushed
Right.
higher.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And the reason why that's so important is because you gain authority in those areas that you own. Like, that's what I hear you. Like, you're owning your own heart healing.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
when you own that and you learn to overcome and you walk out those processes, what happens is you develop authority in those areas, which now you can lead others through that. And so it really does begin with that ownership. And the thing with, owning your assignment, anything that God calls you to, it does require an active, even a mindset shift, sometimes even a positional heart moment where you're like, I am owning the name of mother. I'm owning the name of leader. I'm owning the name of heart healer. Like, you have to not just know it, you have to own it, which means you're actively walking it out. And when you start to do that, that's when really, I believe, your destiny starts to really unfold.
So good.
Can we define spiritual mother? Because obviously I'm not a mom, Kathy's not, and there's many, many listening that aren't in the natural. And of course, we know that you're not just referring to natural mothers, but two things. Please define for us what spiritual mother looks like. How do we know if we're called to that? And
Right.
I like one of the summary sentences about the book is help you identify those you are called to release a mother's voice to. So if you could just unpack in a little more practical way what a spiritual mom looks like, and how do I know if I'm called to that?
Yeah. Well, I do believe every woman is called to it. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I believe, in my book goes in much more detail, but in a nutshell, I would say, again, the assignment of mothering in general is to raise up world changers. Now, and I like to explain it like this, like, think of it like this. You could say the universal assignment of doctors is to heal, right? Would you say that would be sort of the
Mhm.
universal assignment?
Right.
Now, the unique expression of each doctor depends on what their particular focus is. You could have a heart doctor, you could have a lung doctor, a skin doctor, right? There's all kinds of doctors, an eye doctor. And so all these different doctors is the focus. That's their unique expression. So I believe the universal assignment of mothering, both natural and spiritual, is to raise up world changers. Now the unique expression is going to look different on each woman, right? So you could have a CEO woman that's maybe mothering her business or mothering a group of people, and you could have the stay-at-home mother that is raising up world changers with their children. And so it's going to look different because of how each woman is uniquely created to be, to function their own spheres of influence. But the overall universal call is to raise up world changers. And the way that we do that is, first, of course, being the world changer ourselves. That's the first step. But also, kind of the three keys there would be to I break it down like this: affirm the vision, assist the vision, and then accelerate the vision. And so affirming the vision. Okay, who has God called those people that you're called to influence or mother to be? Who does God say they are? What is the vision? Just like Mary, she treasured the vision of who Jesus was. And that literally means she kept that in front of her as the lens through which she looked through, which would affect the choices she made to partner over his life. Right. And so, for example, my son, when he was just a toddler, he would bang on a table. And then, like, the way he did it was not like random, there was rhythm to it. So that vision, I recognized, oh, he's got a gift of rhythm in his life. That vision became the lens where I would partner with that, come alongside of it as a mother, get him drum lessons, get him involved with some kind of percussion. Now he's playing drums for churches and stuff. And so I love to see that gift. Everywhere he goes, he's just playing. He can't help but move. And so that's just one small example, but that's affirming the vision. Assisting is that lending your strength to him. coming alongside, and then accelerating the vision is ways that we use our influence to help accelerate them when they're ready to that next place of their destiny. We see this with Jesus particularly. Remember when Jesus turned the water into wine, right? You know that whole exchange. It's so fascinating. So here's Mary, they're at the wedding. Jesus hadn't performed anything public yet. And remember the story where they ran out of wine. And so she goes to Jesus and she says, Jesus, they ran out of wine. And I love this because Jesus knew that she wasn't asking him to go to the local 7-Eleven and pick up more wine or the local shop or whatever. He knew what she was asking him to do because he said, woman, it's not my time yet. And, and I don't know what look they exchanged. But the next scene is like she turns to the servants, is like, do whatever he says. And this is the crazy thing. He did. He absolutely did. And so what happened in that moment was Mary saw, she'd been treasuring the vision of who he was, affirming it for 30 years. And in that moment, when he wasn't actually ready to come out publicly yet, his mother was the one who accelerated his destiny into public ministry. And she wasn't the only one, you guys. We see several other mothers in the Bible that actually went before kings, went before people to accelerate the vision, their destiny of their children, because it was something they were carrying in their heart. So in the context of raising world changers, each of us have people, I believe, that God has put in our life that we have a synergy with, that we have an opportunity to speak into their life, to build that relationship, and potentially to use our influence to help accelerate the destiny over them. I mean, I've done that in the worship community before. There's people that I've seen like, okay, now is the time. I'm going to help come alongside, lend my strength to their voice, and now let's release them to fly, give them that opportunity and to step into something that I see in their life. And so that's just a very small picture of an opportunity that we can all do that. Now, are we called to mother everyone? Absolutely not. Like I remember I was at a conference and a lady come up to me at the end of me sharing this message, and she's like, will you mother me? And I didn't know her. And I heard her heart. Like I heard her heart, like I knew what she was looking for. Because honestly, when you understand how powerful of an assignment a mother can, doesn't want to have a mother's voice in their life. But I knew, and there's actually a whole chapter in my book about will you mother me? What I don't want to see is a bunch of women who are like needing this to validate their own reason for existence. Almost like to run around and be like, I'm your mother. I'm your mother. I'm going to mother you. Like, no, let's not do that. But you are called to different spheres of influence to people. And I believe that there's a difference between being someone's mother, spiritual mother, and operating as a mother's voice in someone's life. And so I would say that those that I'm maybe called to spiritually mother, it's pretty small. It's not a large group, but there's those that are called, and it would be a mutual recognition of relational equity, of trust, of having that voice in someone's life. So I think there's that, but I also am mothering a worship community. I'm mothering a prophetic community in the context of what the assignment is, which is to affirm the vision, assist it, and even help accelerate that in their lives. And so I feel like that's just a piece of it. The Lord is speaking to me more about what anointings and impartations that I feel like mothers uniquely carry as well. And it's connected to birthing new things, new ideas, and a grace and anointing to do stuff like that. And so there's other things that are being unpacked, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. Does that answer?
Yeah. Well, and
so good.
And in that vein, then age isn't really a factor, is it? I mean,
not at all.
You, Bethany, could mother someone who's 10 years older than you.
Absolutely.
So it's not even a matter of, they have to be, my children's age or anything like that. It's really nothing to do with it.
Absolutely. It might have to do with, maybe someone's mothering you in a particular area that you just want to grow in. Like, I genuinely believe that if you want to grow in a path of maturity, you need to invite the voice of mothers and fathers into your life. Heidi Baker, in a sense, mothered me.
Mhm.
I've never really met her. I mean, I met her once.
Mhm.
I got to hug her once. But she's mothering a generation. She's mothering nations
Mm.
by her books, by her
Mhm. Mhm.
life, by her
Mhm.
messages. She's speaking into and those that would allow that voice to speak into their life
Mhm.
in a way they have that mother. Bill Johnson's doing the same thing, I think, through fathering. Many people are doing that. But we also need those people that are feet on the ground as well, that know us, that can call us, and speak into our lives for who we are uniquely. We need to know that there's people out there that see us as well. But we also
Yeah.
can be that voice to others. And so it would start with maybe some people maybe youth are just drawn to you. Maybe that you're like one of those people that you're like a Pied Piper and like young kids are just drawn to you. And maybe it's a demographic or a sociographic, like you guys are working with people that need their hearts healed. You are mothering them into wholeness, through
Mhm.
this healing ministry, through what you guys carry. There could be people that are even like mothering in a business, maybe you're not going to run around necessarily and call it mothering because that could freak out some people, but it very well is what you're doing. You're releasing courage and strength and you're helping release that identity into people. And so it can be very vast, but it is unique and it is needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is it's going to be born out of relationship too. It's not going to be like some stranger or whatever. And when you have those assignments, and I think it's really key. What you're saying is when the piece of this is owning it,
Right.
owning the assignment, and being intentional about it. And even if you're not using the language of I'm going to mother you or whatever, you can intentionally do those three things by affirming and assisting and accelerating. You can intentionally do those things and nobody puts a label on it,
Right.
but you're doing it
Right.
and you're owning it. So that is
Absolutely.
so powerful.
I know there's people that like I've been a leader and I was oversaw my kids' Christian school and I pass it on to the next couple and they would say that I mothered them. I never even thought of it like that, but they would say that I was like a spiritual mother and I was mothering them into that role of leadership in their life in that season. And so um I just think having some language will help people accelerate that role in their life. Graham Cook says, and we always love to quote this, but he says, when you do by intention what you've done by intuition, you achieve acceleration. So
Mhm.
when you actually understand and you can identify what the assignment of mothering is, you can more intentionally partner with it in those relationships of those around you. Therefore, you'd see an acceleration of the fruit of that in your life.
So go get the book and read more about this. I love this, Bethany. It's what I've watched you do, and I didn't realize what
Right.
you were doing. Like I've watched you for 2 years. I've been in your worship community for 2 years, and I've seen how you do that and how you really become a champion.
Mhm.
You champion those in the worship team and encourage and create a safe place for them to be raised up and released. And so I've watched that, and I did not know some of the language behind what I've watched, but you've been doing it even, and you're doing it intentionally, and now helping others to see that, and that's really powerful.
But I love that you're sharing that. But, as I'm championing people, do you see me sitting along the wall and doing nothing
Oh,
else?
no, 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 no.
Right? See,
Yeah,
that's the
you're doing
point.
it.
It's like I'm running hard, but I'm
Yes, you are.
championing you guys too. Like I want to see you guys step into this. And so I love, you asked at the beginning too, like about like what are my greatest joys too. And it is, I would say that's another one is seeing people being able to watch people soar and be a part of that. I love
Yeah,
that too. That's a great
yeah,
joy that I have.
yeah.
So just I'm sure we could have,
Yeah, I
part
think
one,
we
two,
could
three,
keep
four,
going,
five, and six,
but
7, 8, 9, 10 with Bethany Hicks. But in
yeah.
wrapping up, leave us with some encouraging words, whether to do with the book or not. What is burning on your heart right now to release, to encourage the listeners, whether
Yeah.
men, women, children? What's on your heart to encourage?
Well, especially, this being the beginning of the new year, I think one of the things that I'm so passionate about is, I love this quote from Bill Johnson. He says, "You're not waiting on heaven, heaven is waiting on you." And I just really am passionate about people recognizing like it is time to start owning, to start moving, to start actively pursuing the things of God in your life. Like, don't wait another day for things to come to you unless God specifically told you to wait. It's so important that we start to see ourselves as sons and daughters, no longer slaves. Remember, in slaves don't know what the master is doing. John 15:15, Jesus said, "I no longer call you servants. I no longer call you slaves, because a servant doesn't know his master's business. Instead, I've called you friends. For everything I learned from my Father, I've made known to you." And so I believe that this is the time to start walking as friends of God. That it is not a tightrope walking with him where you're going to get it wrong, but really it's this vast green pasture. Whereas a son and daughter, you get to walk with him and say, "Let's go try this, Lord," or "Let's move out here." And so it's like heaven is actually waiting on you to start moving towards your destiny, to start moving towards the things that God has called you to be. And so don't wait another day. I really believe this is what faith looks like. It's faith that pleases God. And so I believe faith looks like me walking out, even though I'm not sure, but going towards some level of what is the desire in your heart, stepping out into destiny, trusting that the Lord knows how to close the door and put up the stoplight if it's
Mm.
not
That's right.
right. And then
Yep.
start moving. Just start moving. Don't stay still. And so really just pursuing the things of God. And what is that thing that God wants you to go after this year? And then making a step towards it. When God started to speak to me about speaking at more instead of just worship leading, I got every book I could find. I started to study different communicators. I would watch TED Talks. Like, I would start to learn and align myself with that call of wanting to learn how to speak and be a public speaker, so that I could be an effective communicator of his presence and his goodness and connect with people. And so I pursued that. So what are the things this year that you need to pursue and start moving towards so that God can actually open up those doors that he's been waiting to open for you?
Good. So
That's
good.
good. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much,
Thank
Bethany,
you.
for being part of our podcast guest list and
So honored.
for what you're contributing to the body of Christ, because you have a voice that is getting louder as you go, because you are running hard after it. You're moving toward it and you're stepping into your assignment and walking it out, and your voice is becoming so much louder within your spheres of influence, and it's broadening. And just want to bless you and what you're putting your hand to. And this other book, I think it's really important. You mentioned Mark Verkler. We've become good friends with Mark and Patty since we interviewed him, and some other joint ventures that we're walking into. And he said that his book on hearing God's voice has sold more copies than the other 49 books he's written combined.
Wow.
And so it's so critical. People want to hear God. They want to know that they can. And so I love that even the title is like, yes, it's hardwired into our DNA to hear God's voice. So blessings to you in 2021 and all that you put your hand to. And we may circle back when you get the other book done, and we'll talk another round. And I do hope everybody who's listening will go grab this book and learn about some more details of what Bethany's been talking about. And just really appreciate you, Bethany, and love you so much as my worship director
Love you
and
guys.
as my friend.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So appreciate you
Thanks,
guys and what
Bethany.
you're carrying, what you're stewarding. And wow. And just really even seeing like this pool, like the pool of Bethesda, like that's what you guys are doing. You guys are stirring these waters, and you're really helping people get into the water for that healing. I feel like it's actually, you guys are creating this pool for people to get healed. And so these healing waters that you guys are bringing, and so I just want to honor that so many people are just getting free so that they can be who God has called them to be. And so thank you guys for doing that too.
Yeah. Well,
That's right. And
takes
so that
all of
they
us, yeah.
and therefore they can own their assignment because
Exactly.
they're coming from a healed heart and not a place of, I don't even have an assignment,
Right.
because of the lies they're believing and the wounds. And so we're removing that so that people actually can step into their assignment
Yeah.
in confidence, even if they're a little bit scared. And I was just thinking too, I love that we're starting the year with this as,
Mhm.
a powerful woman, a prophetess, a worship leader, teacher, speaker, because like I love Lauren Cunningham's book, Why Not Women? He wrote even before Chris Valentin's book about that. But he is raising up an army of not only heart healers, but of prophets and teachers and leaders and speakers and mothers. So thank you so much, Bethany, for joining us.
Thanks, you guys. Love being with you guys.
Thank you for joining us today. If you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with your friends.
And please stay tuned for more great content coming your way.